They're laughing at you. Right now. They think you're crazy. They think you're wasting your time. They look at the choices you're making, the path you're walking, the stand you're taking, and they've already decided you're a fool. And here's what makes it worse. These aren't strangers. These are people who know you, people you grew up with, people you trusted, family, friends, the ones who were supposed to have your back. But instead, they're looking at you like you've lost your mind. And maybe you're starting to wonder if they're right. Maybe you're questioning everything. Maybe the weight of being misunderstood is crushing you. But what if I told you that being seen as a fool is exactly where greatness begins? What if I told you that every person who ever changed the world was first called crazy? Stay with me. Because what I'm about to share will change everything. You know what nobody talks about? The loneliness of doing what's right when everyone else thinks it's wrong. The isolation that comes with standing firm when the whole world is telling you to sit down. Right now, you might be in that place. You're holding on to something. A dream, a conviction, a standard, a truth. And everyone around you is trying to convince you to let it go. They're telling you you're being too rigid, too idealistic, too naive. They're saying you need to be realistic, practical, grow up, get with the program. And the pressure is real. Because when you're the only one in the room who sees things differently, you start to doubt your own vision. You start to think maybe you're the problem. But here's what you need to understand right now. Right this second, being different isn't the same as being wrong. Being misunderstood doesn't mean you're confused, and being called a fool doesn't make you foolish. In fact, it might be the clearest sign that you're on the right path, because the crowd always mocks what they don't understand. They always attack what threatens their comfort. They always call you a fool when you refuse to play by their rules. And if you're feeling that right now, if you're carrying that weight of judgment, I need you to do something. I need you to hit that like button. Not because I'm asking for validation, but because you need to mark this moment. You need to remember that you were here, that you heard this, that something inside you recognized the truth. And if you know someone else who's being called a fool for doing what's right, share this with them. Don't wait, do it now, because they need to know they're not alone. Let's talk about what it really means to stay true to what's right when everybody sees you as a fool. Because this isn't theory. This isn't motivational fluff. This is your life. This is the battle you're fighting every single day. You wake up and you have to face people who don't believe in you. You go to work and you're surrounded by mediocrity, but you refuse to settle. You see everyone cutting corners, compromising their values, doing whatever it takes to get ahead, and you're standing there saying, "No, not me. I'm doing this the right way." And they look at you like you're an idiot. They say things like, "Why are you making this so hard on yourself? Why don't you just go with the flow? Why do you have to be so different?" And in those moments, the temptation to give in is overwhelming. Because being true to what's right is expensive. It costs you relationships. It costs you opportunities. It costs you the approval of people you care about. And there's this voice in your head that keeps asking, is it worth it? Am I being stupid? Should I just compromise a little? But here's what that voice doesn't tell you. Compromise is a slow death. Every time you abandon what's right to fit in, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you betray your convictions to gain acceptance, you sacrifice your soul. And eventually, you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back at you. So yes, they're calling you a fool. Yes, they're laughing. Yes, they think you're wasting your time. But what's the alternative? Becoming like them? Settling for their version of success? Trading your integrity for their applause? That's not living. That's surviving. And you weren't put on this earth to just survive. You were put here to stand for something, to be different, to show the world that there's another way. And if that makes you a fool in their eyes, then wear that label with pride. Because the fools are the ones who change the world. The fools are the ones who refuse to accept things as they are. The fools are the ones who dare to believe that doing what's right actually matters. Now let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. How many times have you compromised? How many times have you known what was right but did what was easy? How many times have you seen something wrong and said nothing because you didn't want to rock the boat? How many times have you abandoned your values because standing up for them would have made you uncomfortable? If you're being honest, the answer is probably more than you'd like to admit. And I'm not saying that to shame you. I'm saying it to wake you up. Because every time you choose comfort over conviction, you reinforce the idea that being accepted is more important than being authentic. And that's a lie that will destroy you. The truth is, most people spend their entire lives trying to fit in. They morph themselves into whatever shape gets them the most approval. They say what people want to hear. They do what's expected. They follow the rules even when the rules are wrong, and they convince themselves that this is wisdom, that this is maturity, that this is being smart. But all they're really doing is dying slowly. They're killing their uniqueness, suffocating their voice, burying their truth under layers of pretense and fear. And then they look at you, someone who's refusing to play that game, and they can't handle it. Your authenticity threatens their facade. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your willingness to be seen as a fool makes them confront the fact that they're living as frauds. That's why they attack you. That's why they mock you. That's why they need you to fail. Because if you succeed while staying true to yourself, it proves that they didn't have to compromise. It proves that they sold out for nothing. And that's a truth they can't afford to face. So they double down. They tell you you're wrong. They tell you you're going to regret it. They tell you you're being a fool. And in the moment, it hurts. It's supposed to hurt. Because you're human. Because you want to be understood. Because rejection stings no matter how strong you are. But here's what you need to remember. Their opinion of you is not your reality. Their judgment of your choices is not a reflection of your worth. And their inability to see your vision is not proof that the vision is flawed. It's proof that they're not meant to be part of it. If you're still with me, if you're feeling this deep in your soul, I need you to do something right now. Drop a comment and tell me one thing you're refusing to compromise on. One truth you're holding on to, even though people think you're crazy for it. Say it out loud. Make it real. Because when you declare it, you solidify it. When you put it out there, you commit to it. And when you see that other people are fighting the same battle, you realize you're not alone. You realize that there's a whole army of people who refuse to bow to the pressure, who refuse to trade their souls for approval, who refuse to be anything other than who they were created to be. So comment right now. And while you're at it, subscribe. Because if this message is hitting you this hard, you need more of it. You need to be reminded every single day that staying true to what's right is worth it. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about what happens when you actually commit to staying true to what's right, despite what everyone thinks. Because it's not just about enduring the criticism. It's not just about developing thick skin. It's about something much more profound. It's about discovering who you really are when you strip away all the external validation. Most people never find out who they are because they're too busy being who everyone else wants them to be. They spend their whole lives performing, posing, pretending, and they die without ever knowing their own soul. But when you choose to stay true to what's right, when you choose to be seen as a fool rather than compromise, something shifts inside you. You start to develop an unshakable sense of self. You start to realize that your value doesn't come from what people think about you. Your worth isn't determined by whether you fit in or stand out. Your identity isn't built on approval or acceptance. It's built on truth, on integrity, on the courage to be yourself even when the whole world is against you. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop needing their validation, you become unstoppable. Because what can they do to you? Mock you? You've already been mocked. Reject you? You've already been rejected. Call you a fool? You've already been called worse. When you've been to the bottom and you've survived, when you've been labeled and dismissed and written off, and you're still standing, you become the most dangerous person in the room. Not dangerous in a harmful way, but dangerous to the status quo. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to the lie that says you have to compromise to succeed. You become living proof that there's another way. And that's what the world needs. Not more people who fit in. Not more people who go with the flow. Not more people who sacrifice their values for a seat at the table. The world needs people who are willing to build their own table, who are willing to stand alone if that's what it takes, who are willing to be called a fool if it means staying true to what's right. But let me be real with you about something. This path is hard. I'm not going to lie to you and say that if you just believe in yourself, everything will work out perfectly. I'm not going to tell you that your conviction will shield you from pain or that your integrity will protect you from loss. The truth is, staying true to what's right will cost you. It will cost you relationships with people who can't handle your growth. It will cost you opportunities that require you to compromise. It will cost you the comfort of blending in and the security of following the crowd. And there will be moments when you wonder if it's worth it. There will be nights when you lie awake questioning your choices. There will be times when you feel so alone that you almost give up. But in those moments, you have to remember why you started. You have to remember what you're fighting for. You have to remember that the temporary pain of being misunderstood is nothing compared to the permanent regret of abandoning yourself. Think about it. What's the alternative? Compromising your values so people will accept you? Abandoning your truth so you can fit in? Betraying who you are so you can be who they want you to be? And then what? Then you're accepted by people who don't even know the real you. Then you're successful in a system that required you to sell your soul. Then you're surrounded by friends who only liked you when you were pretending. That's not success. That's slavery. That's trading your freedom for the illusion of belonging. And I'm telling you right now, it's not worth it. Nothing is worth losing yourself. Nothing is worth abandoning what you know is right. Nothing is worth becoming a version of you that you don't even recognize. So here's what you do. You stay true. You hold the line. You refuse to budge. And yes, people will call you a fool. They'll say you're stubborn, rigid, unrealistic, naive. They'll tell you you're missing out, that you're limiting yourself, that you're making things harder than they need to be. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them laugh. Because while they're busy mocking you, you're busy building something they'll never understand. You're building character. You're building integrity. You're building a life that's actually yours, not a cheap copy of someone else's expectations. And when the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the critics move on to their next target, you'll still be standing. And you'll know in your soul that you did it the right way, that you stayed true, that you didn't compromise, and that knowledge, that peace, That integrity, it's worth more than all the approval in the world. Right now, I want you to share this video. Not because I'm trying to get views, not because I'm trying to build a platform, but because somewhere out there, someone you know is on the verge of giving up. Someone is about to compromise because the pressure is too much. Someone is wondering if they're a fool for holding on to what they believe. And this message could be exactly what they need to hear. It could be the thing that keeps them from abandoning themselves. It could be the reminder that they're not crazy, they're not alone, they're not wrong. So share it. Send it to that person. Tag them in the comments. Be the lifeline they need today, because when you help someone else stay true, you strengthen your own resolve. When you encourage someone else to stand firm, you reinforce your own commitment. We're in this together, and together, we're unbreakable. Let's talk about something else that nobody mentions. The moment when everything shifts. The moment when being seen as a fool actually starts working in your favor. Because here's what happens. People watch you. Even when they're mocking you, even when they're criticizing you, they're watching. They're watching to see if you'll break. They're watching to see if you'll compromise. They're watching to see if your conviction is real or just talk. And when you keep standing, when you keep pushing, when you keep staying true, despite everything they throw at you, something changes in their perception. The mockery starts to turn into respect. The criticism starts to turn into curiosity. And eventually, the same people who called you a fool start to wonder if maybe you were seeing something they couldn't. Maybe you were right all along. But here's the key. You can't be doing it for that moment. You can't be staying true just so you can eventually be vindicated. Because if that's your motivation, you'll quit before you get there. You have to stay true because it's right. Period. Not because it will pay off. Not because people will eventually understand. Not because you'll be proven right. But because your integrity is non-negotiable. Because your values are more important than your reputation. Because who you are in private matters more than what people think of you in public. When you operate from that place, when your conviction is that deep, nothing can shake you. No amount of mockery can move you. No level of rejection can break you. Because you're not doing this for them. You're doing it for you. You're doing it because you refuse to live a lie. You refuse to be a fraud. You refuse to compromise your soul for temporary comfort. And let me tell you what happens when you live like that. You attract the right people. Not the people who want you to fit in. Not the people who need you to be small so they can feel big. But the people who recognize authenticity when they see it. The people who value integrity. The people who are also trying to stay true in a world that demands compromise. Those are your people. Those are your tribe, and they will find you. They will be drawn to you. Because genuine people recognize other genuine people, and when you connect with them, when you build relationships based on truth rather than pretense, you'll realize that being called a fool by the crowd is a small price to pay for being embraced by the few who actually matter. Can I get real with you for a second? Most of the people calling you a fool are miserable. They're stuck in lives they hate, doing things they despise, pretending to be people they're not. And when they see you refusing to play that game, it triggers something in them. It reminds them of the dreams they abandoned. It reminds them of the person they used to be before they started compromising. It reminds them that they had a choice, and they chose wrong. That's why the mockery is so intense. That's why the criticism is so harsh. They're not really attacking you. They're defending their own choices. They're trying to convince themselves that compromising was the smart thing to do. And the only way they can maintain that illusion is by tearing you down, by making you doubt yourself, by convincing you that you're wrong for staying true. Don't fall for it. Don't let their regret become your reality. Don't let their bitterness poison your conviction. Here's what I need you to understand. You being called a fool is not about you. It's about them. It's about their inability to see beyond their own limitations. It's about their fear of stepping out and doing something different. It's about their comfort with mediocrity. And you can't let their perspective define your path. You can't let their blindness determine your vision. You can't let their weakness dictate your strength. You have to stay in your lane. You have to keep your eyes on your own journey. You have to trust that what you're seeing is real, even if nobody else can see it yet. Because here's the truth. The fool is not the person who stays true to what's right. The fool is the person who abandons what they know is right just to gain the approval of people who don't matter. Now, I promised you something powerful at the end. Something that would tie all of this together. And here it is. Every single person who ever did anything significant was first called a fool. Every inventor, every innovator, every revolutionary, every person who changed the world started out being misunderstood, mocked, and dismissed. They were told it couldn't be done. They were told they were wasting their time. They were told to be realistic, to give up, to stop embarrassing themselves. But they didn't listen. They stayed true. They kept going. They refused to compromise. And eventually, the world caught up. Eventually, people understood. Eventually, the fool became the visionary. But here's the critical part. They didn't change. The world changed its perception of them. They were always right. They were always on the right path. They were always doing what needed to be done. It just took time for everyone else to see it. So if you're being called a fool right now, welcome to the club. You're in good company. You're walking the same path that every world changer has walked. You're experiencing the same rejection that every pioneer has experienced. You're facing the same mockery that every innovator has faced. And if you stay true, if you refuse to compromise, if you keep standing when everyone else is sitting, you will eventually see what they cannot see yet. That being called a fool was never about you being wrong. It was about you being ahead. It was about you seeing what they couldn't see. It was about you having the courage to walk alone until the crowd finally caught up. But here's what you cannot do. You cannot quit. You cannot compromise. You cannot abandon what you know is right just because it's hard or lonely or painful. Because the moment you do that, you lose. Not because you failed at your goal, but because you betrayed yourself. Because you traded your truth for a lie. Because you chose comfort over conviction. And that's a regret that will haunt you for the rest of your life. So stand firm, stay true, hold the line, and let them call you a fool. Let them laugh. Let them judge. Because while they're talking, you're building. While they're mocking, you're growing. While they're comfortable, you're becoming unstoppable. And one day, when everything you've been working for comes to pass, when everything you believed in manifests, when everything you stood for becomes undeniable, they'll look at you differently. They'll say they always believed in you. They'll act like they were on your side all along, and you'll smile because you'll know the truth. You'll know that you did it alone. You'll know that you stayed true when it mattered. You'll know that being called a fool was just preparation for being called extraordinary. So here's my final call to action. Comment right now and declare what you're staying true to. Make it public. Make it real. Make it undeniable. And then, every time someone calls you a fool, come back to this video. Come back to this message. Come back to this truth. Because you're going to need reminding. You're going to need encouragement. You're going to need to hear again that staying true to what's right is always worth it, even when everybody sees you as a fool. Especially when everybody sees you as a fool. Because that's when it matters most. That's when your character is tested. That's when your conviction is proven. And you will pass that test. You will hold the line. You will stay true. Because you're not like them. You never were, and you never will be. You are the one who changes things. You are the one who stands when others fall. You are the one who refuses to compromise. And history will remember you not as the fool they called you, but as the hero you always were.